Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, gather around the virtual water cooler with us as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, and all sorts of good stuff. And we do have a hell of a lot of good stuff to talk about here today. And here to talk about that stuff with us is, of course, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
John, it's good to see you. Did you hear that Netflix added 10 million new subscribers recently? Boy.
It's kind of the pace they've always been on, though, kind of like quarter over quarter. We'll see what happens though once Disney Plus drops. And of course, also joining us here is Miss Ashley Whalen. Ashley, how you doing?
I'm fantastic. Good morning, everyone out there. Good morning, guys. I'm doing great.
All right, now we do have a whole bunch of stuff to jump in here to today. We've got a bunch of main topics, but we'll get to those in a second. But first, we've got a couple things to get to off the top, things that have just kind of dropped this morning. And the first thing we're going to talk about here is this. X-Men Dark Phoenix. It's coming in June. It is the final chapter of this incarnation of X-Men that we've lived with since 2000. It's the final one. Disney made that very clear. This is the last one in this iteration of what the X-Men are. It's coming. We've heard a lot of things about it, mostly not so good. The trailers have been getting a little bit better. But what happened was at CinemaCon in Las Vegas last week, or 2 weeks ago now, however long ago it was.
A blur.
They showed us a brand new promo for X-Men Dark Phoenix that had not been released yet. Well, this morning, they released that trailer, Rob, that they showed us at Las Vegas CinemaCon, and it is beyond a shadow of a doubt to me the absolute best thing they've put out yet. It's got an intensity to it that a lot of the others didn't have. It had some of those boom moments that a lot of the others didn't have. I adore the shot where it's Dark Phoenix looking at Magneto and they're staring each other down. She's like, "Are you threatening me?" And he's like, "Yep." And then, it was a great moment. And it's trailers like this, Rob, that just make me want to look. I understand building up and building up, but we say it all the time. You don't get a second chance to make a first impression. And understanding how kind of poor and underwhelming that first trailer or two that X-Men Dark Phoenix put out, and then you see a trailer like this, and you're just left to wonder, why not lead, maybe not with this particular trailer, but why not lead with something like this? Because I believe the narrative surrounding the fans right now, when it comes to X-Men Dark Phoenix, would be a hell of a lot different if this was the first trailer that came out. Now, I'm not saying you lead with the ultimate best trailer that you have, but this is such a night and day quality difference, in my opinion, from the first couple of trailers that they put out. And it might be a case of too little too late. Like once you lose some people in the audience and they see the first trailer and they go, not interested. They check out. A lot of times you have a very hard time getting those people back, even if you put out fabulous trailers later. And I thought this trailer, I'll say it. I thought this trailer was great. I thought this was a great trailer. Not the best trailer of the year, but I thought it was a great trailer. And it doesn't mean the movie's going to be any good, but I think you would have had a lot more people excited. Rob, you and I talked about this trailer just a little bit in Las Vegas, but you've had a chance to watch it again now. What are your thoughts on this piece?
Well, my thoughts on the movie haven't really changed, but I think this trailer, like you said, is much better. It's much more exciting, but it also, look, we got a train gag in the first X-Men. We're getting another train gag now. We've seen Phoenix go crazy in a suburban neighborhood in X-Men: The Last Stand, X-Men 3. We see that in this trailer. They do go into space, and we do see, I guess, an alien. But I think even watching this trailer, as much as I like this trailer, and I think it was a much better piece of marketing, I love this cast. I love seeing them come back. The movie itself just doesn't provide anything intellectually for me to hold on to and go, I can't wait to see this. They haven't transcended what we've already seen in the X-Men films. I mean, Days of Future Past was epic. I liked Apocalypse because we started out in ancient Egypt, and there was a lot of apocalyptic destruction. We saw for all of its faults, there's a lot of great scenes in Apocalypse. This movie looks small.
Yes.
And I don't understand it. They've got one of the great most famous comic book storylines of all time, and they basically decided to remake X-Men 3, The Last Stand.
I disagree with that entirely. The Phoenix storyline, we've went over this. The Phoenix storyline in X-Men 3 The Last Stand was a minor storyline in it. The rest of the X-Men 3 The Last Stand, the big main story was about the kid with the power to negate other mutant powers.
Sure.
And should they enforce that? This whole notion, because you're not the only one to say it. I've heard other people say this too, that this X-Men Dark Phoenix is just a remake of that. No, it's not. It's not at all. That Phoenix storyline was a minor sub-story. It was a subplot in that movie that they've decided to take and expand upon. Now, none of this changes the fact that both you and I have heard from our own individual sources that this movie has not turned out to be very good. Now, whether that's true or not, we're going to have to wait and see the movie. I've heard, there have been many times I've heard from people that I trust that a movie's no good, and I saw it and I liked it. Maybe that'll be the case. I'm not holding my breath.
Oh, look, I want it to be good. I do.
I think we all want it to be good, right?
So this was the the first time I saw a trailer, even though it's the final trailer. So it's a first impression for me. And I was like really excited about the cast. I like Sophie Turner. I love Jessica Chastain. I love Jennifer Lawrence. I love, the whole cast seems great. But my impression was that I'm not as familiar with all of the X-Men plots, but I felt like the takeaway was the plot didn't seem as sophisticated or like multifaceted as some of these other films that I've seen. So it just seemed a little bit, just like even keeled. Like I don't really know any of this. Maybe they'll surprise me with some amazing like B story subplots. But from what my takeaway was, it just seemed a little flat.
Well, I think that's a very astute take, because even in X-Men Apocalypse, you see Magneto lose his family. There's a whole reason why he joins Apocalypse. This movie looks very straightforward. It looks like she gets the power, this alien wants her to embrace it, and she fights the X-Men.
Seems lazy.
There's nothing else going on.
But here's what I don't get about you on this, Robert. You are the exact same guy who is saying, don't even show me an Avengers Endgame trailer. Don't show me anything. So here we have an X-Men Dark Phoenix, which both you and I agree is probably not going to be a good movie. But here we have this X-Men Dark Phoenix trailer. It shows us that the X-Men, they've continued on from the last movie. They've gone into space during a rescue mission. This one character gets possessed by what we know to be the Phoenix Force, but some cosmic entity. It's driving her to a place that she can't go. She's feeling this power. She's enjoying this power. She murders a significant X-Men. Now we've got a bunch of the other mutants are saying, this girl's got to go. We've got an alien presence. This is all being shown to us in the trailer. An alien presence there now talking to her, saying this is a force that has destroyed everything it's touched until it's come across you. Now we start to see the mutants having to rally against her, and it's coming to this big confrontation, blah, blah, blah. It has told us so much, and now you're sitting here telling me it's not telling us enough when you're the same guy telling us, don't even show me a trailer for Endgame. How do you reconcile this?
No. Here's the thing. I already knew everything they're showing me in the trailer. When I knew that when I read the comics when I was 12.
You're the 2%. You're the 2% of the people who do.
Of course, but there's beyond the central question of, okay, she's evil. What else is going on? I mean, traditionally the X-Men movies have been ensemble casts, and there's been a lot going on. For instance, in the first X-Men, you meet Wolverine and you meet Rogue. They have two very different skill sets. They both have various problems. Rogue had to leave her family. Then you're introduced to all of the X-Men. Aside from the fact that Sophie Turner is possessed by Dark Phoenix, and that's bad, there's nothing else in this trailer except that. And if that's the only focus of this movie, I don't know if that's enough. The X-Men have, look, when Days of Future Past came, we see in the future the mutants are about to be defeated. That's pretty hardcore. But then Wolverine has to go back in time to the early 70s. Well, that's crazy. Then he has to navigate the 70s. He's the fish out of water. And then he has to deal with Magneto. And then he has to deal with the Sentinels. And then he has to deal with the President. And then he has to deal with Mystique. And there's all of these things going on. And in this movie, it's like, Sophie Turner's bad. That's all bad for us. We have to stop her. Beyond that.
Again, I don't understand. We're talking about the trailer, not the movie. We don't know what else is going to be the movie. And you're one of the guys constantly telling me that the trailers are telling us too much. And now you're saying I'm often complaining when a trailer doesn't tell us anything about a story, but I feel like this trailer does tell us enough. It tells us everything we need to know to go into it, and it shouldn't tell us anymore.
I know, but we've seen 3 or 4 trailers that have told us exactly the same thing. And usually a trailer, a campaign will give you a little bit more in drips and drabs.
But what has the Endgame trailers given us that we love? Nothing.
But see, the Endgame trailers have 22 movies behind them, and they've excited us. We should be excited to see this ultimate rendition of one of the most classic X-Men stories come to life. People remember it from the animated series. They did it once a little bit in X-Men 3. And I just think this movie it takes place in rooms and Magneto's like Louisiana juke joint somewhere in the swamplands, and we get to see a train ripped apart again.
I so thoroughly disagree. We so thoroughly disagree on this, and it's ironic because it's on a movie that we both pretty much agree is probably not going to be any good.
I want to love this movie. I want to love this movie.
Of course we do. Of course we want to. We're going to go into this theater. We're like, all of us are going to go into the theater hoping to like it. I'm just saying, I don't think we have a lot of realistic hope that it's going to be any good at this point. But I'm going to keep my fingers crossed.
You want to hear something that I really just object to?
What's that?
America no longer has a space shuttle. And at the beginning of this movie, the X-Men are going into space to rescue a space shuttle. We haven't had a space shuttle for almost a decade.
When does this movie take place, Robert?
I know when it takes place.
Then what's the problem? If you know when the movie takes place, why is the fact that we don't have a space shuttle today a problem?
Because it just seems, I don't know, that maybe it could have been cooler. It is a science fiction movie after all.
But there were space shuttles when they made in the time frame of this movie. So how is that inconsistent?
I guess.
I don't get your problem with that.
I'm excited. Even with my comments about it, and that's how I feel, I'm still excited. As the first time I'm seeing a trailer for it, the trailer did excite me enough where I'm interested in seeing it, just because I think the cast is so compelling and they're such strong actors that I'm interested what they are going to bring to this, to me, boring script, but we'll see.
well, who knows? The script might be the best thing we've ever seen or heard. This is just a trailer.
Yeah. This is just my impression from a tiny trailer.
Look, I want this movie to be good, John.
Well, we all do, but I also think we're going in with a little bit of adjusted expectations, right? The fact of the matter is, it's all subjective, but a lot of us were very disappointed with X-Men Apocalypse. I know I was really disappointed with X-Men Apocalypse. I wanted to love that. We've all heard some pretty not good things coming out of this movie, and we've seen lots of terrible movies to pretty good trailers. I think this trailer, had I not known what I know,
right,
I would have thought this trailer was fan-frickin-tastic. I think this is a trailer that gets my blood pumping. Trailer. Okay, well then what are we debating? What are we arguing? If it's a good trailer, it's a good trailer.
They're doing a good job with what they have. I feel like they've made a good trailer out of the parts that they have to work with, is what I'm thinking. Yeah. Like they've made an interesting, they've compiled an interesting minute-long trailer out of something that seems very, as I said, just like not multifaceted plot-wise.
Right. So Rob, if what you're saying is that it's a good trailer, but it wasn't enough to change your perception of how you think the movie will be, then I'm on the exact same page with you. I thought it was a good trailer, but it hasn't changed my perception of where the quality level of this movie is going to be. And I'm going to go in, I'm going to check my expectations at the door. I'm going to go in with my fingers crossed. I want them to finish this thing strong. What else? What do we have left but hope? What do we have left at this point?
Hope is a good thing.
But I really do think the narrative amongst the fans would be different today. And I think the expectations levels for this movie would be different today if they led with something like what we saw this morning. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. What do you guys think back there? You saw this brand new trailer. What do you think about it? Was it enough to change your perception of the movie? Was it maybe your first time seeing a trailer for this thing? Do you still feel underwhelmed? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to this next thing off the top, and that is this. We all know there's a brand new James Bond movie coming. I believe they're getting ready to shoot in just a matter of about a month or so, I think. But there's still a little bit of drama going on behind the scenes. there is some rework being done on the script as we speak. Daniel Craig, the star of course, the James Bond films right now, wasn't completely happy with the script, and he went to the producers and he specifically requested to have the creator of the wonderful BBC series Killing Eve. Guys, if you have not watched Killing Eve, watch Killing Eve. It's pretty damn fantastic. To bring in the creator of that show to do a touch-up on the script, and apparently, according to Variety, that's exactly what's happening. From Variety, Killing Eve creator Phoebe Waller-Bridge has been brought in to polish the script for the next James Bond film. Variety has confirmed Waller-Bridge's involvement came at the direct request of Daniel Craig, according to The Observer, which said Craig felt the script needed a polish to add more humor. The Emmy and BAFTA-nominated writer is known for her offbeat, caustic humor and strong characterization, because not only has she been doing Killing Eve, she also did Fleabag, which she also stars in, by the way. That's getting a lot of critical attention as well. Rob, you are amongst the biggest James Bond fans I know. You're also a fan of Killing Eve. You started watching Killing Eve. When you hear news like this, what's your response to hearing something like this going on? How do you react to this?
Well, I think it's great news. And I think the fact that she's working on Killing Eve does a really good job of balancing great, hard-hitting espionage, assassin, spy, thriller stuff with really great characterization and this really obsession between two women with one another. And I think, look, after Spectre, which while looks beautiful and has one of the great Bond openings, it was a yawn fest. As much as I love my Bond movies, it really, and Blofeld, who used to have a volcanic base back in the 60s, is just, he's hanging out in a spa in the middle of the desert with a bunch of other people watching their computer screens. I mean, it was yawn inducing. And I think what this movie needs, it needs the buoyant pitter patter of the Connery films. It needs to come back to the scene. One of the great scenes in Daniel Craig's tenure as Bond was when he first meets Eva Green's character in Casino Royale, in the train. That scene alone should be looked at for how to introduce characters to one another. And that's what I think Daniel Craig is looking for. He's looking for that. I don't know the plot. I've heard it's about a new 007 being trained and Bond's retiring. I don't know what it's about. But I think the idea that you bring in someone with the new perspective and bring in the rapier wit that Bond has. I mean, we need that. We need that fun. Bring back fun to Bond. Craig is so dour after Casino Royale. Enough. I want to see some quips. I want to see some one-liners. I want to see Bond and a woman go, well, mano-y-mano with one another, but verbally. Bond is a cunning linguist after all.
There's so much I could say, but I mean, this is kind of the pattern Bond has followed, right, since Daniel Craig came on. Fabulous film, kind of a step down, followed by a fabulous film, followed by kind of... I didn't think Spectre was terrible, but it was definitively... We use the word sometimes, but I really did feel there was a convoluted kind of aspect to this movie that felt a little disjointed, and it did lead it to feeling a little bit more boring as a result. They put action on screen, but it wasn't pieced together in such a way that made you get invested in it, and so it was absolutely a step down. I think there are some people who look at having humor in a film versus intensity, and there's a lot of film fans who kind of look at it as an either or. I think what Bond needs to go for and what Bond has done in the past and what Daniel Craig is asking for here is not an either or. He's asking for a both and. Bond traditionally has had great intensity and great fun. It's had the great one-liners from the hero quips to the menacing one-liners from the villains. It's not an either or. And so I know there are some people who want to balk when they see Craig wanted more humor. What, he wanted it to be a Disney film? No, he just wants it to get a little bit more in tune with the DNA of James Bond, which is not either or, it's both and. Do you think she's the person to bring this to it? Do you think she's the right choice for that?
I do. I mean, I really do. And I'll tell you something. There's a lot of people. This is not some SJW thing, but I think a female voice in a script like this can only help. We need that. I think that writing has really the subtleties and the nuance and the way that writing has it's become so formulaic lately. And I think the Bond films used to set the tone, especially in the early 60s. They were new. Now we're dealing with a franchise that is over 50 years old. And when you look at a show like Killing Eve threads that needle in terms of tone. You can watch a horrible murder and assassination, and then literally you can laugh at it. It's darkly sardonic humor, yes. But there's a lot of, you're jumping from tone to tone in that show. And it's the tone and it's the jumping between the tones that I think Daniel Craig wants. He wants to be able to go from brutal, hard-hitting Bond-esque action to maybe some kind of humor that we can all be like, wow, that was, and then on to the next. It's a really hard thing to do. And I think Phoebe Waller-Bridge, is really good at it. So let's add that to the script. I mean, this is his swan song as Bond. I think he wants it to be the best script it can be. So bring it on.
All right. What do you guys think about this? Do you like the addition? Do you think it's an either or both and situation? Jump down in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, let's now move on to our main topics here. How do we select our main topics on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple to see you guys select them by sending me your topics and questions by going to the website www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you're there, you're going to see a form, fill it out, hit submit, and maybe, just maybe, you'll see your topic or question as one of the main topics here on the John Campea Show. With that down and out of the way, Ashley, what is our first main topic today?
First one is from Thomas Patterson. Hey, John, in a recent interview, Kathleen Kennedy stated they tried with Solo to see if they could do 2 Star Wars films in a year. After seeing the performance, they said they backed off it. Do you think that Lucasfilms is taking away the right lesson from Solo? Personally, I don't think so. What are your thoughts?
No, absolutely not. That is not the lesson to be taken away. Look, there were people, big Star Wars fans, including me, that when they announced that they were going to do a Han Solo movie without Harrison Ford, when we just had Harrison Ford as Han Solo in a Star Wars movie, that this was a movie that nobody asked for and nobody wanted. Now, obviously, that's hyperbole. Clearly, some people did, but we said all along, this is not, nobody asked for this movie. Han Solo movie in 20 years with somebody other than Harrison Ford? Sure, go ahead, do that. We just had Harrison Ford on screen against Han Solo, and now you're asking people like a year later to come back into theaters and watch a movie that with a character they've watched for 4 decades almost as somebody else. I said it from the beginning, it was not going to work. And even though Ron Howard put together what I thought was a really fun space adventure entertaining movie, it's no surprise that the film just around $400 million. And with all the reshoots, that means that movie lost money. A Star Wars movie lost money. Was the takeaway that, oh, we just shouldn't do 2 movies in a year? Here's specifically where that's coming from. So this is from the, of course, Empire Magazine, one of the big movie magazines. They have a podcast, and this is what was shared. Funnily enough, I asked Kathleen Kennedy this very question, and she was quite candid. She said they learned their lesson from Solo, that doing 2 films in less than a year wasn't something the fans were prepared to accept. And she's hands up, we made a mistake with that. Here's the problem. Did you make a mistake making a Han Solo movie without Harrison Ford, so close to Ford being in there when nobody asked for it? Yes. Was the mistake that you made it within a year of another Star Wars movie? Hell no. If that's what they're taking away from this, if that's what they thought the problem was, then there's a bigger issue here that we need to talk about. That wasn't the issue. Hell, you've got Mandalorian coming out in November and then a Star Wars movie in theaters in December. If the lesson is the fans can't take too much Star Wars, well then you're putting this whole series out 1 month away from a movie coming out. That's not the problem. The MCU can crank out 3 movies per year. That's not the problem. Now, I've never wanted like 3 Star Wars movies a year. I like pacing them out, all that kind of stuff.
What?
I like pacing them out. I don't want to have too much at once, but that was not the problem at all. And I think if Kathleen Kennedy really thinks that, which I can't believe for a second she really thinks that. I think she's owning up to that mistake, which wasn't really the mistake, so she doesn't have to own up to the big. And I'm a Kathleen Kennedy fan. There's a reason Steven Spielberg, the greatest filmmaker of all time, calls her the greatest producer he's ever worked with. There's a reason for that. I am a Kathleen Kennedy fan. But I believe this is a situation where she is owning up to a mistake that doesn't look so bad. Oh, we just shouldn't have done 2 movies a year. Instead of owning up to the fundamental core mistake of, we didn't realize that this was just a bad idea to make a movie out of right now in the first place, because that one takes a little bit more egg on the face. And that's what I think about this. Rob, you've heard me rant about this. You read the comment there. Is she right? Was the problem that it was just within a year of another Star Wars movie and that's the issue, or was it something else?
No, she's totally wrong. And I'll tell you something. Kathleen Kennedy is one of the great producers Hollywood has ever seen. But here's the thing. She's a nuts and bolts, get it done, adhere to your budget and schedule producer. She took over Lucasfilm. She was a great hire, but she has no understanding and no connection to the fan base that has made these movies so popular for almost a century now. And making a Han Solo movie was an idea somebody came up with in a boardroom without any understanding of why Star Wars has been Star Wars for 40 years. Contrasting to what I was always said, Kevin Feige produced 13 Marvel movies before he started the MCU. He understands the subject matter, he understood the fan base, he understood what worked and what didn't work. He was intimately familiar with producing movies in the Marvel space. Kathleen Kennedy comes on board because she knew Lucas and Spielberg, great producer, did not understand the fan space. And contrast that with the scene. The thing is, nobody cares about a Han Solo movie that doesn't involve Harrison Ford as Han Solo. The idea of recasting Han Solo within, as you pointed out, a year and a half or something after seeing the real Han Solo die was a complete mistake. You make a Boba Fett movie and you knock it out of the park, people will go and it makes $1 billion if it's great, because nobody knows about Boba Fett. You can do anything you want. And just that scene I watched, I hate to say it, yes, I did watch that scene from the Mandalorian that stars Werner Herzog when the Mandalorian goes and meets him and takes a job. There is more Star Wars, there's more delight in that 3-minute clip and then the montage afterwards than in everything that's come out of the new Disney run Star Wars. And I think that, look, an Obi-Wan trilogy, finding out where Obi-Wan was from the end of Revenge of the Sith to the beginning of Star Wars, that would have been epic. People would have been excited for that because Ewan McGregor coming back playing Obi-Wan would have made the fans excited. But you recast Han Solo, and then you're expected to like all these new people playing familiar roles. How much more excited are you to see? I mean, Donald Glover was great as Lando, but how much more exciting was it to see Billy D. Williams coming back in the trailer for Rise of Skywalker? I mean, they don't get it. Dave Filoni gets it. You know, everybody that works on Rebels and the animated show and the Clone Wars gets it. But what's funny is, as in Hollywood, there's a prejudice against that. Oh, those guys were doing animation. We're making movies. You know, well, and yeah.
Let's not forget, too, that, I mean, she is the person that gave the stamp to Rogue One. I think Rogue One is great. She gave the stamp to The Force Awakens. A lot of us like The Force Awakens very much. She's the one who's putting Mandalorian on the screen. She's the one that had greenlit and put, I'm not a Star Wars Rebels fan. Rebels I am. I'm not a Star Wars Clone Wars fan, but a lot of people are. She's the one responsible for it coming back. So it's not like she has this absolute disconnect. And that's the thing that bothers me a bit here. It's not the fact that it's not like she has some kind of massive disconnect from the fan base. She's hit it out of the park a couple of times here. What bothers me is just, look, you're not always going to hit it out of the park. You're going to make mistakes.
Right.
When you make mistakes, just own up to the mistake. Don't make up a secondary mistake that isn't a real thing and try to own up to the real mistake. You know what? We totally misread the fan base on this. We thought there would be a big hunger for Solo even without Harrison Ford. We were wrong about that. We misread the fan base on this. We own up to it. Now let's go in, take those lessons learned. Let's go make The Mandalorian. Like, own it and use it as fuel to move forward. Don't try to disguise it and hide it. And that's the thing, because I am excited for Mandalorian. I am excited for whatever Benioff and Weiss are doing, whatever Rian Johnson's doing. I'm excited for all that stuff, but it's just stuff like this. When they own up to something that's not the problem and fail to own up to what was the problem, it shakes my confidence a little, Rob. It just shakes my confidence a bit.
I agree. And look, I love Kathleen Kennedy. Her legacy to my youth and my growing up has been immeasurable. But the thing is, Kathleen Kennedy is a great administrator. And she doesn't have, like, where Kevin Feige loves this material, loves the Marvel Cinematic Universe. She needs a major domo. She needs a Bib Fortuna. She needs a Star Wars Bib Fortuna to stand next to her and whisper into her ear and say, he's no Jedi. When, somebody who knows the Star Wars franchise, that understands what the fan base wants. And you know what? I think she knows enough now, like you said. I think whoever they got, whoever said yes to The Mandalorian, if it was Jon Favreau, he threw his weight around. Look, when you see a door open, when The Mandalorian is going to make a deal, a door opens, and the first thing you hear is a gonk droid. I'm like, these people know their Star Wars. They know it's the little, there's so much flavor, as John Schnepp would say, in what they're doing with The Mandalorian, because those people were given the blessing to go out and do what they do, and they know and they love Star Wars. And it shows in the 3-minute sequence that they showed at Celebration.
And here's the thing that we really got to I'm going to be keeping my eye on a lot. You're so right about how Kathleen Kennedy's main gist is that of an administrator. And that's why filmmakers love working with her, because she makes it happen. But as that, I think that goes to what I think her biggest failing has been as the head of Lucasfilm, is she's gone through directors like laundry. Like, there have been a number of their projects where they had directors, oh, we're on the same page. Oh, we're not on the same page, because she has never been able to creatively sync herself with the people she has brought on as directors. I'm hoping now that those lessons have been learned. She went to a tried and true source in a Ron Howard. She goes to somebody like a Jon Favreau. She's going to somebody like Benioff and Weiss for things like that. I'm hoping these are all signs, particularly the Favreau pick. I'm hoping these are all signs that she has learned a very hard and costly lesson in all the director drama they've had before leading into this. But again, Rob, I just feel a little bit more confident in that if she would just own up to the mistake of Solo and then move on from it instead of camouflaging it. But that's
what's interesting too about Solo is it's not a bad movie.
No, it's a good movie.
It's a really
good space adventure.
A really solid movie. I think a great adventure set in the Star Wars universe. It's just that you're watching a film where, as a viewer, as a lifetime Star Wars lover, I could not reconcile. I'm watching somebody who's trying really hard to play Han Solo, but it's not Han Solo.
And I like the kid. I like the kid playing Solo. And I liked what Donald Glover did. I like what Ron Howard did. But it was just a movie nobody asked for.
I do want to say one last thing about Kathleen Kennedy. She did do some ballsy hires. She did. Yep. She went after young independent directors who were making their bones in the industry. And she, on a spreadsheet, she did what a good producer does. You work with people that seem to be up and coming and doing well. What she did not understand, I think, is that she was used to powerhouse directors coming in and not being a problem, and she would facilitate their visions. Whatever they needed, she would put on the table for them to use. These directors that came in were not as experienced working on these kinds of movies as she had hoped. And her choices at first that were ballsy and they were unique and they were out of the box did not work out because she doesn't have the understanding. She hasn't worked with those kinds of directors yet. She's worked with directors that were very reliable and really knew their stuff and were used to working in the studio system, whereas these younger hires, maybe not so much. They were more loose cannons and they were younger and they were less experienced. And I think she's learned her lesson, and we're seeing that in The Mandalorian.
All right. Let's move on now to the next main topic of the day. Ashley, what is our next main topic today?
My next one is from Isaac John Beepy. Hey, John. So I just read on the official Minecraft.net website that a live action film is coming on March 4th, 2022. Have you heard about this news? I have never heard this until now. Have you, Rob, or Ashley ever played Minecraft? I loved it as a kid, but I haven't played it in a long time. Anyway, what are your thoughts on this news?
Actually, Ashley, I'm curious to ask you that question. Did you ever play Minecraft?
No, I didn't. I'm familiar with it, but I never played it myself. No.
Yeah, I think we're all familiar with it. I'll tell you what, I've never played it either. My nephew, forget about it. My nephew apparently is just like all Minecraft all the time, but I've never played. Rob, did you ever have a chance to pick it up?
No, I have to say that I'm kind of like a millennial. I've watched a lot of people play. Actually, millennials are probably too old to even do that. I've watched people play Minecraft on the computer. My girlfriend's youngest daughter played Minecraft, and I watched it. It looked intriguing to me. I was like, I'd like this.
I mean, look, there are entire YouTube networks dedicated to just Minecraft and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know what it is we're talking about here, news came out that, first of all, news came out a while ago that they're going to do Minecraft. This is actually much later than we thought. This is from Deadline. Warner Brothers has set a date for the theatrical debut of its Minecraft film, and the game's obsessed young fans won't be happy. The movie will hit megaplexes on March 4th, 2022. The studio acquired the rights and announced the film back in October of 2014, then hot off its success with the Lego Movie. It originally said that in June 2017 that the video game adaptation would be released in theaters on May 24th, 2019. Now, the picture will see the dark of theaters nearly 3 years after when they said it would come out. The problem with something like this to me is, I think it's safe to say, now, granted, I fully admit I've never really been into Minecraft per se. I don't really understand Minecraft per se, except that a lot of people love it. Great. But I think it's safe to say not as many people play it today as played it back in 2014 when they acquired the rights. I think it's safe to say that not as many people today play it as they did back in 2017 when they announced a 2019 movie was coming. And I think it's safe to say there will be even fewer people tied into the Minecraft ecosphere 3 years from now in 2022 when they do get around to making this movie. So, Rob, I got to ask you this. Is 2022 simply too late to get moving on a cultural movement thing like a Minecraft? Is it too late, or is it still perfectly fine coming out on a date like that?
Well, I think, and this is, I preface this by saying this is coming out of my middle-aged ass I'm talking out of right now, but the Minecraft generation has grown up. You know, I mean, maybe, I don't know if people who are in their early 20s are going to have great nostalgia for playing Minecraft back when they were 8, 9, you know, whenever they were playing it. And it's not like Legos that has all of these licensed properties to draw from. But I could be wrong because, you know, I'm old, John, and you just never know. But I can't imagine, like, what is a Minecraft movie going to be about? I think the problem with Minecraft is they have to sort of force a storyline into Minecraft. I mean, the whole point is that you, from what I understand, is you create worlds. You know, you create your own worlds from blocks from scratch, and you know, I don't know, you're going to, once you create a character and you expect to follow them on the screen, who is that character? Where did that character come from? The whole point of Minecraft is you're the creator, you know, and you get to build that world. And I don't know if it's going to work as a movie, but then again, you never know. I never thought I'd be excited for a Detective Pikachu movie either.
Well, yeah. And then just look back to that other movie you mentioned, Lego. I mean, I remember going, what the hell are they making a Lego movie for? What do you do with a Lego movie? They're plastic building blocks. What the hell, with no inherent story of their own? What do you do? And we all ended up loving that first Lego movie. So I guess there's that element there. There's that Felipe the Sentient Dancing Microphone element there that, hey, just come up with a story and a script and it can work. I guess
I'm more excited for that movie than the Minecraft movie.
Oh, the Felipe the Sentient Dancing Microphone? It's going to be epic, man. It's going to be epic. But, I mean, I guess my question, though, becomes, is there going to be enough interest just in the IP itself in 2022 to bolster it? Like there is a multi-generational nostalgic factor that was connected to something like a Lego.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. But let me ask you, Ashley, let me ask you this. Like, as somebody who hasn't played the game, like me, as somebody who hasn't, been tied into the Seekosphere like Rob, you hear about this movie, honestly, just as an average film goer, does this generate any interest for you?
No, zero.
That was pretty definitive.
Well, I just I don't really care about this movie at all. Maybe if I hear a buzz about it and some of my friends see it and they love it, then I'll go. But Legos, I heard about Legos and I was excited immediately. I didn't have the same feelings as you, John. I was like, I heard Legos and I was like, this movie's gonna be awesome. But Minecraft, it's like, I don't know. It's kind of strange. It's like you were saying, Rob, like kind of like, is it like a Sim City where they're just like building worlds and then, yeah, because then it's like, are they going to have who's going to be building the world, or he's just going to go off in it from his own fruition and no one's going to be building the world? Or it's going to be interesting what they do with it, I guess, how they approach the storyline.
All right. What do you guys think? Do you think 2022 is too late for a Minecraft movie? Do you think, no, whenever you can put it out, it's going to be a big hit? There's enough of a fan base for it now. I want to hear your thoughts. Jump down in the comment section below and tell us what you guys think. All right. With that down, let's move on to the third main topic today. What is the next main topic today?
Christian Hannah says, hey, John and Robert, Kubo and the Two Strings is for me one of my favorite animated films, but sadly didn't win Best Animated Feature at the Oscars. And now I just heard that director Travis Knight will be directing Mark Wahlberg in The $6 Billion Man. After Kubo and Bumblebee's huge critical success, what are your thoughts on this?
My first thought on this isn't even about Travis Knight. My first thought on this is, they're still trying to get this $6 Billion Man movie made. This, for those of you who, a little bit of history on this. This is a film, right now it's at the one studio, but it used to be with the Weinstein Company, which is now bankrupt and sold off all its properties. And it goes all the way back to when they had a script and they were going to do a $6 Billion Man starring Jim Carrey. And it was going to be obviously more of a comedy, all that kind of stuff. And they were developing it for years. Then it died on the vine. Enter Mark Wahlberg years ago. Mark Wahlberg comes on board and they reimagine it, this time as more of a superhero kind of film, a little more heavy, dramatic, gritty superhero kind of film, which is, he's a cybernetic man. Why not? So they had a script and a director, lost them. Then another script and another director, lost them. And for years, it's just been known that Mark Wahlberg still wants to do the $6 Billion Man thing, and it's been absolutely quiet. Now, it seems like it's back on again, as they're announcing that Travis Knight, the guy who directed Kubo and the Two Strings and did such a great job with Bumblebee, rehabilitating an entire franchise's image in one movie. He did such a fabulous job in that, and obviously he did a great job with Kubo and the Two Strings as well. This is very intriguing to me. And you know what? Not just for the $6 Billion Man, I think a movie like this is a nice next step for Travis Knight as well. I think this is good for him to round out his resume a little bit. So I got to tell you, Rob, who knows if this movie is going to be any good or not, but I think getting Travis Knight on board is a good move for $6 Billion Man. And I think this is a nice project for him to take on as well. What do you think?
Well, John, the $6 Million Man when I was a kid was one of my favorite things in the world. And my first experience with love and heartbreak was when Jamie Summers was in her horrible parachuting accident. She was turned into the Bionic Woman, and she rejected her bionics and almost died, and it destroyed the love between Steve Austin and Jamie Summers. And Jamie went to live with Steve's parents in Ojai. This was epic drama for me.
This is deep shared universe storytelling before the MCU.
Stephanie Powers played an alien. They had a cybernetic Bigfoot. I love the $6 Million Man. I loved Oscar Goldman. I loved the Fembots. This was part of my childhood. I think it's a terrible idea to make a $6 Million Man movie, a $6 Billion Man movie. Because here's the thing. There are ideas that are sort of their time. And the $6 Million Man was definitely an idea of its time. It was based on a book called Cyborg by Martin Caidin. It was a TV movie first. They made a really great TV movie that was a backdoor pilot. They made the show. They tried there was a Bionic Woman series recently, I think maybe in 2010, They
that's
resurrected.
right.
Yeah, they resurrected. And I just think we live in a world now where we've moved so far beyond the $6 million man or the $6 billion man that, remember, Steve Austin had 2 bionic legs, a bionic arm, and a bionic eye. So he could run really fast, he could lift heavy things, and he could see far. I don't really know, like, how is a $6 billion man going to compete in a universe that we have Star Wars, we have the MCU, we have Pixar movies, we have the Fast and the Furious franchise. I just can't see a $6 billion man who can run like 60 miles an hour and lift heavy things with one arm and see far. How is that going? But again, Travis Knight, by the way, I did misspoke yesterday on the show. I misspoke, yeah. I said Kubo won the Oscar. It didn't, so I'm glad that somebody pointed that out to us. Thank you for that. But I just can't see this movie. What's the hook? know?
The way I look at it, it's like, look, we have a Hawkeye series coming. He has no powers. He's just really good with a bow and arrow. Okay.
True.
And that could be great, and we're excited about that. We got a Black Widow movie coming. She has no powers. She can just, kick ass, which is great, and a lot of people are excited about that. I think what you do with a $6 billion man is you make it a gritty character. Look, like what happens to a dedicated soldier and a dedicated man who all of a sudden is less human in his own eyes, that not only does he have now new abilities, but there's a new personal drama going on about what's left of him. Where does he go? And if you can make a really good movie, take the powers out of it.
In 1987, it was called RoboCop.
Yeah, there was that. I was just say, Bryan Singer once said, if you'll know if you're on the path to making a good superhero movie if you take the superhero movie element out of it and you still think you have a good movie, right? Which is great, which is totally true. If you can't take the superhero element out of a superhero script and you still are left with a good movie, then you're on the wrong path. And I think there's a good movie to be made there. If they do go a little more gritty, don't make it feel like a comic book movie, but use some of the comic book movie motif. I think there's a possibility there. And Mark Wahlberg, look, I've always been impressed with Mark, not always, but in the last number of years, I've been really impressed with Mark Wahlberg and the things he's been able to do. And I think there's potential here. I'll stick on that word, potential. I think
agree.
there's potential.
With a good script and a good director, you can make a great film as long as they have Maximilian the Bionic Dog.
I remember that. All right, guys. What do you think? Do you think the addition of Travis Knight is enough to get you excited for a $6 billion man? Jump down in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, let's move on now to the fourth main topic today. What is our fourth main topic today, Ashley?
Daniel is the Vask says, Box Office Pro just projected X-Men Dark Phoenix to make 40 to 55 million opening weekend due to bad test screenings and the people who worked on it saying it is worse than Fantastic Four 2015. The numbers didn't surprise me, but what does surprise me is that it is opening against The Secret Life of Pets 2, and that movie is tracking 70 to 90 million opening and expecting to take down Dark Phoenix. Can Pets 2 defeat X-Men?
It's really interesting. We are now in a day and age with the movie business that comic book movies are the de facto main juggernaut of the box office. More people are going to see these movies anytime, to the point now that we just assume that when a comic book movie is opening, understandably so, our starting assumption is, well, it's going to be the number one film at the box office. So now we have an interesting situation coming up. On June 7th, we have 2 pictures opening. We have X-Men Dark Phoenix, and we have The Secret Life of Pets 2. The question being posed is, can Secret Life of Pets 2 actually beat X-Men Dark Phoenix at the box office? When in reality, the question should be, is there any reason to believe that Secret Life of Pets 2 wouldn't beat X-Men Dark Phoenix at the box office? Let's take a look at the history of this thing. First of all, we got the last Secret Life of Pets and the last X-Men movie. The last Secret Life of Pets came out. It had an opening weekend of $104 million. I really like this movie, by the way. I think it's really cute. But then again, I'm a dog person. So, in total, it made more than Wonder Woman. It made $875 million at the box office, which is more than Venom, more than Wonder Woman, more than Ant-Man. More than a lot of comic book movies, right? So 104 million opening weekend, $875 million total, and it had a solid 73% critic rating at with the critics. All right. In contrast to that, the last X-Men film, X-Men Apocalypse, well, what was its opening? Its opening was $65 million, which ain't bad, but it's not $104 million. It had a global total box office of 544. Profitable, nice little take, but it's nowhere near $875 million. And the Rotten Tomatoes critic rating was 47%. So here's the question. When you look at it in context, first Secret Life of Pets, 104 million opening, X-Men, 65 million opening. The first round made 875 million, X-Men's made 544. And the critical response, 73% for Secret Life of Pets, 47% for X-Men Apocalypse. So really the question of, and this is why I say, Robert, the question shouldn't be, can the Secret Life of Pets beat X-Men Dark Phoenix? To me, really the question is there any reason whatsoever to believe that it wouldn't? Rob, what do you think?
I think you're right. We're living in a world where Captain Marvel crosses $1 billion, and everyone thinks that a comic book movie or a comic book franchise, especially one that's been around for 19 years, is a license to print money. And, it's not. There, you have these solid earners.
Shazam's an example of that.
Absolutely. Shazam is doing very respectable business worldwide. But this idea that it was going to make $1 billion, I think was a little, not in the cards. But this, the Secret Life of Pets, totally different thing. And what's interesting is we now compare and contrast these things as if all movies are Formula One cars that compete on the same track. And that's not true.
Good point.
We've got all kinds of different, there's NASCAR, there's Formula One, there's sprint cars, and we can't have these expectations that all movies are created equal and that they're all going to perform in the realm of the same box office. That isn't true. You've got to take each film on its own. And comparing and contrasting The Secret Life of Pets with X-Men, as you just so deftly pointed out, is not a good comparison. There is no comparison. And we have to remember that. And I think we as fans should remember that too, before we start calling things failures or saying that, oh, well, it means that the X-Men are tired. Nobody wants to see them anymore. Secret Life of Pets 2 is where it's at. Well, The Secret Life of Pets 2 has nothing to do with X-Men, and it is its own thing and should be judged accordingly.
I agree. All right. With that down, let's move on to our final main topic today. Ashley, what is the final main topic for us today?
Last one is from Vitally Ferguson. I have 3 showings of Endgame already purchased, and I can't wait. However,
Nice.
like you always say, any movie can suck. I was wondering what you would say are the biggest potential problems or things about Avengers Endgame that could leave us all upset or disappointed in the movie. Fingers crossed that it doesn't come to that, but what are some of the things you're worried about?
All right. Look, here is the real look. We are all excited about Avengers Endgame. You guys saw the jacket I was wearing yesterday. I'm a big fan of the MCU. I'm a big fan of comic book movies in general. I think at the end of the day, there is ample reason to be enthusiastic. I think there is ample reason to be excited. And I think there is ample reason and evidence to be optimistic about how good this film will be. But every single movie, as you said in the email, every single movie can suck. There is the possibility of any movie. How many times have we gone into movies, my fellow brothers and sisters in film fandom, that we fully expected to be awesome and to blow our socks off and all this types of good stuff, only to get in there and walk out with our heads held low, a broken heart, and sadness in our souls? It's happened. It happens sometimes at the least expected time. I say it time and time again, the greatest filmmaker of all time, Steven Spielberg, even he's had a bad day at the office. And let's not forget, as great as the Russo brothers have been with the MCU, and they've been great, these are also the guys who directed You, Me, and Dupree, as was pointed out so adequately on this show the other day by one of our viewers. So let's not forget that. So look, what am I expecting, Rob, going in to Avengers Endgame? I'm expecting it to be great. I'm expecting a great time. I would put my money on it being a great movie. I think we're all going to have a good time. However, that notwithstanding, I think there are a couple of things to be concerned about and to keep our eyes on, as there would be with any film. And I want to propose 4 things, Robert.
Oh my God.
That if we walk out of Endgame disappointed, and if we walk out of Endgame thinking that the movie sucks, it's going to be because one of 4 things.
Are you about to harsh my mellow?
No, I think this is going to be good, but let's be realistic. Everything has a chance to be bad. And I'm just saying, if this movie ends up being bad, I think it will be due and attributable to one of these 4 things. And here's what I think those things are. If we walk out of Endgame disappointed, it's going to be because of one of these things. Either number 1, it abandons their appeal to non-comic book fans and goes too geeky. One of the great things about the MCU that they have done up until this point is they have taken the fantastical and placed it firmly within the mundane. And I've talked about that for years. It's taken some great concept of comic books and whatever, but then brought them into movies and packages to which average moviegoers, who represent 98% of the movie-going audience, average moviegoers who aren't souped up on comic book lore and stuff like that, and made it feel somewhat relatable. Because there are some concepts and things like that in comic books that would just make the average film goer go, okay, now you're just too nerdy for me. You know what I mean? And the MCU has always done such a great job of taking some of those concepts, the right concepts of those from comic books, bringing it into their more practical movies, and doing it in such a way that appealed to us, the comic book fans, but also to the non-comic book fans to come in and enjoy their movies. I believe there is a risk, a little bit of a temptation here, that maybe the Russo brothers and maybe Feige goes, F it, we can do whatever we want, and then bring in too many of those higher plane geeky concepts into it in such a way that will alienate and disassociate with the average film goer. And that's one of the things. Again, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm not at all. I'm just saying if we walk out of Endgame disappointed, that might be one of the causes. The second thing I'd be a little bit wary of is the idea of, if we walk out of Endgame disappointed, it might be because they come up with either a cop-out ending or a convoluted ending. Sticking the landing on this movie is vitally important, because the big question we all have going into it is, how the hell do you undo the decimation? How the hell do you undo the snapping? How do you undo the events of the end of Avengers Infinity War in such a way that is satisfying, makes logical sense, and sets up the MCU to continue on after Endgame? How the hell is Peter Parker going on a school vacation when he's dusted, essentially? And if Avengers Endgame gives us some kind of crappy cop-out ending that sets it up, and we all walk out there going, that was what this was all building up, that's how they fix this? And I don't know what that would mean. I don't know what that would look like. But there is a little bit of a worry that we should have going into of, it's going to have it was all a dream kind of ending that we've seen other type of movies drop the ball with. Movies and television shows have dropped the ball with sticking that landing. If they come out with a cop-out ending or some kind of really convoluted ending that just does not work for the audience, that could lead people into walking out of the theater being a little, let's just say, disappointed at that point. All right. The third thing I'd want to keep my eye on is this, is if they try to cram too much into this movie. Because look, as much as I love Infinity War, one of my criticisms was Infinity War was they a little bit overstuffed that movie. Now, they were able to do it right to its maximum limit. They did.
You are wrong.
No, I'm absolutely right on that. But they pushed in as much, I think, as they possibly could. And if they try to put in one iota more, I think the whole thing would have exploded under its own weight. But the Russos did a really great job of, even though they overpacked it a little bit, they still managed it and were able to deliver. And that was great. But it came dangerously close to being way overstuffed. It became dangerously close, but they managed it and they succeeded. My fear would be that they go, oh, well, we can just stuff in even tons more stuff in here, which will leave us all pretty unsatisfied, I think. I think that becomes one of the issues. But here's one of the other things that I'd be worried about. And again, let me reemphasize, I'm not saying any of these are going to happen. I'm just saying if we walked out of Endgame unsatisfied, I think it'll be because of one of these things. And my fourth thing that I'd be really most worried about is they pull a Transformers animated movie on us. And what do I mean by that? But this. one of the greatest disservices ever done in the history of movies to a fan base is what that Transformers animated film, when did it come out? 88, 89? A long time ago. Maybe it was 84. I can't even remember now.
Yeah, I think it was 84. 84, Sean.
One of the greatest disservices ever in the history to fan bases is when Hasbro, who provides half of my household income, let me just be upfront about that. Hasbro provides half of my household income. But Hasbro said, hey, kids, come on down and watch it. You love Transformers? Come see a Transformers movie. Oh, you love all these Transformers that you supported our company with by buying the toys over the year? We're going to kill them all. In 7 minutes, we're killing them all, kids. All these toys you bought for us, all these toys you've played with for our benefit, all these toys you've grown to love and you've invested in, all kind of stuff, they're all dead. We're killing them all in like 10 minutes. Now you got to buy Ultra Magnus. Who the fuck is Ultra Magnus? Doesn't matter. Go buy him. Now you're going to have Hot Rod. Hot Rod, yeah, he's Rodimus Prime. You're going to love him. He sucks. Doesn't matter. Buy him anyway, kid. And they crapped all over the fans and they crapped all over the audience. Here's what my one little fear would be. In setting up what comes up in the MCU next, and with Kevin Feige insisting that almost everything we've seen in the Endgame footage and Endgame trailers has been from like the first 20, 30 minutes of the movie, my one little fear that I want to keep an eye open for is that the first 20, 30 minutes is all the Avengers we have become known and invested in over 10 years, 20 plus movies, is they kill Iron Man, they kill Captain America, they kill Thor, they do all that in the first act of the film. And look, kids, here's all the new heroes. And they're all replaced with the new heroes who come in. And the rest of the movie, we're just sitting there going, what the F just happened? I came here to watch Captain America and Iron Man and Thor and a bunch of the other auxiliary MCU heroes solve their final problem, maybe die at the end. But what's going on? Now this movie's about something completely, what the F is going on? And I'm just a little bit worried. Again, I'm not saying this is what they're going to do. I don't even believe this is what they're going to do. But I will admit I'm going with a little bit of apprehension and a little bit of fear that they're going to use this culmination movie to just sweep everybody else away and just usher in a whole bunch of new characters that we haven't become invested in, and they take over the rest of the movie. I'm a little bit nervous about that. Maybe I should be, maybe I shouldn't be. So again, Rob, let me reemphasize before I ask you for your opinions on this. I am not saying any of that's going to happen. I firmly believe this movie is going to be great. I just think if we can look into the future and we see a bunch of audiences coming out of Endgame disappointed, I'm just thinking one of those four things might be the culprit. So let me put it to you, Rob. We look into our crystal ball right now. We look into the future a week and a half, and we see audiences inexplicably coming out of Endgame disappointed, their heads held low, all that kind of stuff. If that happens, what would you fear or suspect could be the root of that was in the movie that had them walking out disappointed? What do you think are the things we should maybe a little bit be concerned about going into this movie?
I think the only reason people are going to come out of Endgame with their heads hung low and looking at the ground with disappointed looks on their faces is because it's over. I think
that's a cop-out.
I think that they're going to have so much fun in this movie.
I want to hear. Stop the cop-out. Stop the fan service. I want you to put online right now, if people are disappointed in this movie, what do you think could be the culprit of it?
Okay. Ultimately, there's a lot of buildup here.
Yeah.
You know, the buildup is over 11 years. And
it's getting there,
the expectations, like, I don't think the last time I had this kind of expectation for a film, I was crushed. And that was Return of the Jedi, to be honest. I expected to see something that was going to be the biggest, most life-changing, epic. I thought I was going to get Return of the King. That's what I thought. And so I know what it's like to be set up and have my expectations not met. But I think that in this case, there's so many things that they're asking us to expect to see in this film. There's so many questions and there's so much stuff that we're hoping to see. I mean, we want to see half the population of the universe come back. We want to see what happens to Thanos. We want to see what happens to all the characters. We want to know who dies. We want to know this. We want to know that. I don't think that there's possibly any way that every single thing that every viewer wants to have happen or hopes is addressed in this movie is going to happen. Because there's just so many. I don't think I can remember a film in my life that I had so many questions about going in, that I expected so much from the story. You got to give me answers to these 28 things, and I need to see all this stuff, beginning with are they going into the quantum realm? Is there time travel involved? All the way back to, are we going to see somebody say Avengers Assemble? Are we going to see Thanos defeated? Are we going to see a second villain? Are we going to see Spider-Man come back from the dead? Are we going to wonder, are they going to deal with the fact that are the people, when they get undusted, are they going to know they were dusted? Like, there's so many. What happens to the rest of the world? What happens to the rest of the universe? What happened to Xandar? Where's the Nova Corps? Why wasn't Captain Marvel on Earth before this? I mean, there's so many questions in this movie. And if two of my favorite questions are unanswered, I might walk away going, oh man, I mean, that sucked. Yeah. And I don't think that I'm going to do that, but I can't remember a movie that has set itself up the way this has. And by the way, by their own design. Yeah. This is not the fans putting it on. This is the Marvel. These are the filmmakers going, here's all the questions that we have to answer. They did it to themselves. And they put this expectation in me and in all the viewers. And if they don't live up to it, shame on them. Shame.
But
shame.
Now I do want to point out, you guffawed a little bit when I said one of the potential worries is maybe them having the temptation to overstuff the movie. But then you just basically said exactly what I said in a different thing. There are so many questions, and there would, I think, be a temptation for them to say, F it, let's just cram it all in. Let's just answer them all, even though we can't possibly do every single one of them in any sort of satisfying way. Let's just overdo it. And I think that goes right to what you were saying there, Rob. That's kind of the heart of my fear of that a little bit, was that they feel the need to maybe do too much in this movie. You know what I'm saying? Instead of getting to the really core important parts and just really soaking in the important stuff. But I think you're right. I think you make a really good observation when you mention that if two of the big questions I have don't get answered, I'm going to go, oh, that sucks. And we do that to ourselves as fans, right? We set ourselves up for that in many ways. So,
but I will say what they do have going for them, and it's something that isn't really addressed, is that they've had a lot of time. Remember, they shot these two movies concurrently. They shot Infinity War and Endgame concurrently. And yes, they have done reshoots, as is to be expected on movies of this size.
Of all of them, yeah.
And they've really had time to adjust. Yeah. And I think of the reason that I am so excited about this movie is because, one, we heard early test screenings went very, very well. And two, they found out they've had time to really put the screws down and really, really hone this movie and craft it into something. I think we're going to get the best version of Endgame we could possibly get. And this is Kevin Feige's big moment for me. You know, what is past is prologue, Kevin. As much as I've said you're my Lord and Savior of the comic book movie-going experience, and you have been, this is the moment. This is the moment where the Red Sea must be parted. This is the moment when all of your believers need to be able to look skyward and hear the chimes at midnight and hear the sunlight shining down and illuminate all of our souls with the greatness that you have the power to bring us. And if you don't, shame on you, sir.
All right, guys.
I trust in Feige, though, John.
Oh, so do I. Look, I think the bottom line here is I think we are all got really high expectations for a reason. They have crafted this thing so well. They have managed these properties so well. They have given great drama, yet the right amount of fan service in the best possible way mixed in there along the way. They always seem to have a target of pleasing the audience along the way. I think we're in for something special.
Okay.
But I do want to know go ahead.
I've got one for you.
What's that?
I just came up with this. Over or under 50% that Endgame is a more satisfying conclusion to the MCU than Game of Thrones is to that series.
Oh.
I know, right? Just came up with this one.
Look, I clearly prefer the MCU over Game of Thrones.
But just the ending.
Yeah.
Just the ending. Who will wrap it up better?
Because Game of Thrones has done the dramatic better than maybe the MCU has. And that tends to lend itself to a more satisfying ending. I will go I'll actually go Game of Thrones.
Wow.
But just because you're saying, I'm not necessarily which will be better, but if you're asking me what's going to be the more satisfying ending,
Yeah.
I think that because, I mean, ultimately, really, at the end of the day, guys, this isn't the end of the MCU, and we know that. At the end of the day, this is just another MCU movie, yet not. So I'll take over on that. Ashley, what about you? What over, under, which do you think takes the nod? What do you think is going to have the more satisfying ending, the Game of Thrones one or the MCU?
I would think Game of Thrones for exactly what you said. It was such a great point. I'm going Game of Thrones. I got to do it. I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm so curious, Rob. What do you think?
You know what? I'm going to have to go because I've believed in Feige. I've got to say, I really believe that Endgame is going to deliver the goods. Now,
I do too.
That I just think I know, and I even asked this question, so now I'm thinking, why did I even ask this stupid question? It has nothing. We're not even at a bar drinking and geeking out for some reason. It's like, what do you think is going to have a more satisfying? Anyway, I apologize for the question, but I do think Endgame is going to provide a more satisfying, holistically, a more satisfying ending to the 22 films because both have been running for the same amount of time. You know, they've both been going on for a decade.
But don't forget Game of Thrones, while this is going to be the 22nd film in the MCU, we're going to be 70 plus episodes.
I know.
Of Game of Thrones, right? So it's, I mean, look, it's a win-win situation. I think at the end of the game, we all win. We're going to get a great ending to Game of Thrones. We're going to get a great ending to this. And anyway, guys, I want to know what you guys think. Now, be honest. Put the hyper fandom hats aside for a second. I want some gut check honesty here from you guys. Even those of us who are most excited about Endgame. If there was anything to be worried about, what do you think that element would be? What do you think would be the thing to worry about going into Avengers Endgame? We can talk all day about all the reasons we think it's going to be awesome, and we do. But gut check time. If there was one thing you had to be honestly say, this would be the one thing I'd be a little bit worried about. I want to know what you think about that. Jump to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. And we're less than a week away. 5 days till I see it. About a week and a half till, no, actually 1 week and 1 day till this movie opens wide. Next Thursday, guys. Next Thursday, Endgame
opens in some territories on the 24th.
That's right. Internationally on the 24th. So even before that. So we are so close, guys. We are so close. All right. We are now going to save some time and take some live questions. Today's show has gone long, guys. I apologize about that. There were some big things for us to talk about, but we got some live questions that we need to get to here. So we're going to hop over there right now and take those live questions. Look, I can tell you all right now, there's no way we're getting through all of them today. So there's going to be a companion video later today to make sure we get to all the questions that we don't have time for. But let's see how many we can get through in today's broadcast. Ashley, what's up in the live chat?
First one is from Jim Boyer. Spoiler, Avengers save Westeros and give Jaime burnt-out gauntlet from New Hand. Last scene cameo, Stan Lee on Iron Throne. Avengers Endgame of Thrones.
Okay, Stan Lee on the Iron... You got me. I was going to go for everything, but then you said Stan Lee sits on the Iron Throne at the end. I'm totally... It sounds a little bit about like that Patton Oswalt Star Wars MCU crossover fantasy. This would rank right up there, Rob. I mean, seriously, a picture of Stan Lee sitting on the Iron Throne. I mean...
you know what? That's where he belongs.
That's where he belongs. That's where he is right now. All right, what's next?
Jacob Leader. What if the Avengers were to time travel back to main Avenger MCU battles? Won't that affect or change the original events in those films? Sorry about my super chat yesterday. I love you guys.
Oh, don't worry about that, Jacob. I've already forgotten about it, as a matter of fact. That's always one of the tricky things when talking about time travel is it presents a lot of logic problems when you get into time travel issues. Some people saying, we think at the end, Cap goes back in time and lives out his days with Peggy, but then that means he never helped found the Avengers. That means he was never there to save the world here. It creates logic issues. That's why I'm not a fan, normally, of time travel in movies and TV shows. To me, time travel is the lazy man's plot device because any problem in any TV show or any movie in history can be solved with time travel. But that's not to say there haven't been great uses of time travel. Star Trek, not Undiscovered Country, Voyage Home, Back to the Future. Somebody brought up Primer the other day.
Primer there are time good crimes. Great.
There are and Jean-Claude Van Damme and Time Cop. There are examples of absolutely, but it is the one thing that makes me a little bit nervous. And remember when I said that one of my iffy things about Endgame would be if they get a little bit too geeky and they kind of abandon. You could get into a lot of time travel nonsense too. So It all depends on how they write it out. There are ways they could write it that would make narrative sense. So does that pose any problems for you, Robert?
No, I mean, it really depends how it's done. Look, one of my favorite time travel movies besides Back to the Future is Back to the Future 2, because they do a really interesting way of going back to the original film and how those events are even informed by seeing our characters go back again and go back and watch. I mean, it was really convoluted and twisted and fun. And, I really like that. I love movies. One of my favorite movies as a kid was The Final Countdown, where a nuclear aircraft carrier, the Nimitz, goes back in time to World War II, and Kirk Douglas is the captain of the ship, and Martin Sheen's in it, and they have to decide, are we going to stop Pearl Harbor from happening? Because we could, and it's cool. I mean, I always love that. So I'm in when it comes to time travel, but I like you said, it can be a really lazy narrative device, and what they do is they make it seem like after they fix everything that nothing happened and there was no consequences.
Yeah, everything's fine. No logic problems.
I hate that. They did that in a 2-part Voyager episode called Year of Hell that I loved. But the ending is a complete cop-out. And it's like, what? This never happened? You can't dust half the universe and have no consequences.
Yeah. All right. We got to move on here. We got like 500 other questions to get through here. Okay. What's next?
Louis Blanco. Ashley, what's this Insurgents DC movie? LOL. You haven't heard about it? It's coming out next year. What do you mean?
Call back to yesterday. Nice.
Yeah, they're just trolling me from yesterday. I was screwing up a trivia question. It was like insurgency or injustice. I don't know. Whatever. Whatever. Okay. YTA 2513. When I go see a Marvel film for fun, I'll wear a Batman shirt. For Endgame, I got a Justice League shirt and all the lantern rings.
Oh, yeah, it's always fun. Like some people, look, I have been to some screenings of movies that were either DC or Marvel, and somebody would be, at a Marvel movie, somebody's wearing a DC shirt. At a DC movie, somebody wearing a Marvel shirt, and like, oh, that's the wrong side. Shut up. It's a comic book movie. They're here having fun. They're here to have some fun dressing in their shirt. Who the hell cares if it's under the corporate label of DC? I just want to tell those people to shut up. You dress whatever way is fun for you to go to these movies and have a good time. F everybody else. Anyway, that's just my thought.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. Okay, what's next?
Stubble McShave. With the recent events in Paris, one would think that any plans that Disney had for a Hunchback of Notre Dame live-action movie has been put on hold.
I would disagree, Stubble. I would almost think it might, if there are any plans actually in the works for that movie, I would say right now it just put those plans into overdrive. I think if anything else, with everybody, the hearts of everybody in the world, and they saved the skeleton of the building, they saved the 2 main towers and all that kind of stuff. I think if anything, it would accelerate the plans, wouldn't it, Rob? Or do you think it would actually make them slam on the brakes?
No, I think it would accelerate the plans too. I mean, people were talking about, what was it, Assassin's Creed or some video game that had this great 3D rendition of Notre Dame that they're going to fix it better than ever. I mean, I think, look, any interest in this, you've got people pledging. It was great to see the world come around and see this. I mean, look, I just think it's great. Yes, the answer is it's going to happen. It's going to be good. It's going to celebrate, since the 11th century, one of the great architectural monuments to humanity. It's going to happen.
All right, what's next?
I was just there. Harris, why are Warner Brothers afraid to make another Superman movie if their main focus right now is solo movies and you have the most recognizable character of all time?
Because there's been such mixed reactions to the Superman character. And even though Henry Cavill is my all-time favorite Superman now, I know that's sacrilegious to say when Christopher Reeve existed, but honestly, he's my favorite one. But he has had a very mixed reaction. They've had very mixed results with their Superman character. Man of Steel was not the success that they wanted it to be, even though I think it's a top 10 greatest comic book film of all time. A lot of people complained about the character in Batman vs. Superman, and then people complained a lot more when they got into Justice League, and I like both those movies, but that's why. So they're turning their focus into other places right now, and it's hard to argue with Walter Hamada on that because they seem to be succeeding right now, Rob.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
All right, what's next?
At SF Jada, Joaquin's Joker creates the Batman by killing Bruce Wayne's parents. That would give the film some weight instead of Joker just creating miscellaneous chaos.
I don't know if it would give it any more weight, because how many times have we seen that play out? I mean, we've seen that done a million times. I don't know if it gives it any more weight. They don't need... in the idea of making a Joker movie that is completely disassociated from the tied-in universe, adding elements that tie it into the greater storyline, I don't know if it adds any more weight to it. But saying all that, I do believe he's going to kill the Waynes. I do believe that's going to happen. Rob, over under 50%, the Joker ends up killing the Waynes in this movie.
I think you're probably right about that. I would go over with that. But remember, I mean, what's really interesting about this is it's delving into how can a creature like the Joker exist? And that's what I find interesting. I mean, everybody's always, we have to think, we have to open up our thought process about this. I want to see how the Joker came to be, a true origin film. And I like the idea that all of us are responsible for the Joker. Everyone.
That trailer's so good. All right, what's next?
Cinda Flame. Hey, John, saw Ben-Hur on Sunday. Great movie. So special seeing it on the big screen. If you love epics, try to catch it.
It is one of the greatest motion pictures of all time. There's drama, excitement. There's so many Hollywood legends behind even just the making of that movie. It is simply one of the greatest cinematic feats ever made, and I do not believe I've ever seen it on the big screen. I've never had a chance.
It's
you
amazing.
Haven't?
And the chariot race. I have. I saw the Cinerama Dome in Seattle. Cool. And the chariot race is one of the great action sequences ever put to film. You're like, how did they do that for real? Like some people had to die, right?
Yeah, these weren't, and there are stories about people dying making that movie. I mean, there was no CGI, folks. It was, it is one of the greatest films ever made. I just love it. All right, what's next?
Donaldo Martinez, do you think Kong will make an appearance in King of the Monsters in order to hype up next year's film?
I don't think so, and I think it would probably be a mistake. Look, if there's a narrative purpose for having them there, great. Don't use a movie to promote the next movie. So I'm going to guess no. It's certainly possible, depending on where we see him, but I'm going to guess no. Rob, is he going to pop up in this?
Maybe in the end credits sequence. I mean, I want a scene where all the devastation has happened, and Kong just turns to the screen and says, "Hold my beer," and takes off for the mainland.
All right. He starts doing his best Cody Miller and starts breaststroking across the continents.
Right.
All right. What's next?
James LH. Hi, John. Reading today that Netflix in the UK are going to trial releasing weekly top 10 lists to UK viewers, but not viewing figures. Any thoughts?
I heard something about that. It's all right. Look, the fact of the matter is this. Netflix doesn't release its viewing numbers for the public. So what? I really don't see them having a need to do that. I mean, would my curiosity like to know? Sure. But is it actually any of my business? Probably not. So if they want to do that, that's fine. But it really doesn't influence too much for me. Rob, does it influence anything for you?
No, but I think it's interesting. I've always said that people need more of an idea about what's on Netflix. And I think that having these top 10 lists is an interesting way to sort of, I'd be interested to check out, what are people viewing? And if there's something that's off the wall that I was like, I wasn't aware of that, I think it's an interesting thing to do.
All right, what's next?
Game Space. Over under 30%. The Night King sits on the Iron Throne.
I would have taken over 30% of that at some point, but I've recently started evolving my theories about what's going to happen. I now think the White Walker and the Night King thing all ends in the 3rd episode of the Battle of Winterfell. And then I think the balance of the remaining couple of episodes is going to be over everybody else battling now over the Iron Throne. So I'm going to take actually under 30% on that. Rob, what about you?
I tend to agree with you here. I think that the most interesting thing is not the Night's King, but whatever happens at that battle is going to lead into, it's going to tee up what's going to happen for the rest of the series, because I think we're missing the point right now. We don't know why the Night King is here, and I don't think it's just a wreck shop. There's more to it.
What do you think, Ashley? Do you think the Night King ever sits on the Iron Throne?
I don't think so. I was going to take the under, but it scared me when he said it.
All right, what's next?
Ben Jesusa, rewatched Bumblebee last night and many times. I love this movie more and more. Wish the Transformers movies were like this before. Aside from that, the first one I like.
I agree. I like the first one very much. Everything else was total crap in my opinion. But what Travis Knight did in one movie, he rehabilitated the image of an entire franchise with one movie by doing one thing. He actually injected heart into it. And that is something that none of the Transformers movies ever had. There was some in the first one, which is why I think I like the first one so much, but none of the other Transformers movies ever had heart. They never had real character. They just had big boom bang. And without heart and narrative and character, big boom bang is nothing but visual noise. And I really, for that reason and many more, I adore this movie, man. I totally adore it. All right, what's next?
Willow Yang, how do you feel about time crystals? They seem to be Rob's nanotech and iron, spider, and ketchup on eggs.
I'll tell you what. I actually really enjoy Star Trek Discovery. I do. I like this show very much. I'm constantly opening up the CBS All Access app to see if the next episode is there. But I'll tell you what, I will fall on the side of Robert on this one. I don't like the time crystal stuff. I don't. I think this is one of the weaker plot devices that they've brought into the show at this point. Now, who knows? I'll see how they kind of resolve it all. But right now, I got to say, I'm not a fan of this kind of MacGuffin, if you will. Rob, I know you're not a fan of it, right?
It's the dumbest thing in the world. And you know what? I'm going to go into it more on my own show, but it's so stupid. It's just monumentally stupid. You know, even in Star Trek, when they introduced time travel in the first season with the light speed breakaway factor, they tied it to Einstein's theory of relativity. And with all science fiction, they try and make something plausible. Time crystals are magic. They are hogwash. They are ridiculous. The fact that you can mine them.
Yeah. Now, I'll say one of the things I liked in it was that when Pike sees his future, and again, it's just magic, because if you take it, your future becomes sealed, because so saith Dormammu, or you know, whatever. It is too bad. I think it's a weak plot device, and then otherwise, what I find to be a really good show, but I know there are others who don't. But yeah, I agree with you, Rob. It's not the best plot device for them to undertake. All right, what's next?
James Welsh, how do you feel about Sony limiting sexual content on all future releases for their consoles? Do you think other companies will follow suit?
Yeah, I read about this morning. It's I have no problem with it. Like, look, if I want to see boobs, there's the internet, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to see filthy, there's the internet, and there's tons of it. I don't play any video games for the sexual content, and if they want to reduce the amount of that in it, I have no problem with that whatsoever. Rob, what do you think?
Look, I just find it funny that they're talking about reducing sex in console games, but you can behead as many people as you want.
Well, sure. Of course you can.
I mean, it's such a strange thing to me that this biological activity that actually perpetuates our species is something to be shunned. But hey, you want to kill a bunch of dudes? Fine.
I agree, but taking a dump is a part of my biological makeup too. I don't need to see a video game about it. But I like the idea of cutting off heads.
Nothing interrupts a video game like having to go to the bathroom. Come on,
this is true.
That. But you know what? When Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out, I don't want it toned down.
I mean, I think you can tone up in other areas. I guess the bottom line for me is I don't have a problem with it, because that's not what I play the video games for anyway.
It's true.
So
I don't either, but still, I just think it's funny that we got to get rid of the sexual content, but up the violence.
All right, what's next?
How American.
Ben Rayner send in a super chat.
Thanks, Ben.
Fan Gesture, Infinity War sold 27.47 million tickets at average of $9.38 opening weekend. In order for Endgame to hit 300 million, it would need to sell an additional 4.5 million tickets.
And now, I had heard that number, and I actually talked to somebody at Disney, and nobody knows where that number came from. At least from the people I talked to, that seems to be that's a number that's being floated around right now, but I'm not seeing anything to substantiate that. That's not saying that there isn't something out there that substantiates it. I'm saying in the quick 15 minutes that I did some looking around and I made one phone call, nobody seems to be able to back that number up. If it is real and true, then I mean, that's monumental. I mean, it's absolutely monumental if it's real and true. Just right now, I can't confirm that that is real or true. But I mean, just do the math. If it's a real number, then 300 million, which is something that, I mean, I've been saying that this movie is going to break the opening weekend box office record. I didn't know if it could get to 300 million. If this number is real, which we have not been able to confirm that it is, but if it is, that 300 million looks like it's within reach. It looks like it's within reach. So we'll have to keep our eyes on that. Okay, what's next?
Ben Rayner, you hear about Swamp Thing shutdown?
Well, let's put it this way. I haven't seen any reliable source saying it's shut down. I did some looking around on that. Nobody, at least as of when we started this show today, as of when we started this live stream today, neither Deadline, Variety, Hollywood Reporter. None of them have confirmed that whatsoever. It just seems to be making its rounds on a couple of the smaller sites, and nobody seems to have an agreement as to where this information came from. For those of you who've not heard, the story is that Swamp Thing, out of nowhere, informed their crew that they have gone from a 13-episode first order to just a 10-episode first order. And now they're scrambling to wrap up the series in just 10 episodes. And also a part of that rumor is that they're wrapping it up at 10 episodes. That's it. And no second season, no final 3 episodes, blah, blah, blah. That's concerning for a fledgling brand new streaming service like DC. But again, I haven't seen anybody reliable back that information up. They may, and it may 100% be real, but I'll formulate an opinion more about it once we find out if that's actually true information or not. So we'll wait until then. All right, what's next?
Pelican Mike, what's your best favorite movie of the year so far? Out of 15 movies I have seen, mine is Chittwell's directorial debut, The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind.
I'm a big fan of Chiwetel Ejiofor. I got to say right now, honestly, as funny as it's gonna sound, for me, it's actually Shazam. I love this movie. I unequivocally, unapologetically, absolutely love this movie. How to Train Your Dragon 3 was fantastic. Us, despite the ending, is really, really good. I liked Alita Battle Angel very much. 5 Feet Apart was actually quite good. I enjoyed that one. I never did get around to watching Happy Death Day to You. There's some of those, but I got to stick with Shazam. I just love Shazam. If you had to pick your favorite of the year so far, Robert, what would it be?
Well, it came out last year, but I saw it this year. Green Book, which isn't a surprise to anyone. I mean, Green Book is my favorite movie that I've seen recently. And, of all the things that I've seen, that's about it.
All right, what's next?
Put up there.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking 8th grade, but that was out before too.
Yeah, that was 2018.
James Welsh, any news on Watchmen after that short tease? I thought we would get a trailer, but nothing for ages.
Yeah, we're still a ways away from that coming out, so I haven't heard anything new about Watchmen. I'll be honest, I don't have a lot of interest in it, but I'm curious about it, but nothing. So you haven't heard anything either, Rob?
No, but I can't wait to see what they're doing. But then again, Damon Lindelof made The Leftovers, which was until Manifest. By the way, Manifest got renewed, so I guess I'm going to hate watch for another year. But The Leftovers was my most hate watch show maybe ever. So I'm looking forward to Watchmen. I hope it's great. I don't know what they're doing with it, but I'm curious. I have this insatiable curiosity about Watchmen, so I want to see it.
All right, what's next?
James LH, I mentioned at the weekend about trying Audible with slugfest.got to a bit about Donner, Superman, and verisimilitude. Made me think of Rob as not familiar with the word until your show. Thanks, guys.
That's right. They bring up verisimilitude in the book Slugfest. It's great, guys. If you're interested in comics and the history of comics and the Marvel DC battle, you got to check out this book. It's fabulous. But I remember I came across the part when they talked about that, and I agree, Rob. I instantly thought of you. Have you had a chance to read this book yet?
No, I haven't read the book, and I really need to read the book. But the idea of verisimilitude, I did get, in fact, from Richard Donner talking about verisimilitude. That was the first time I think I might have even heard it when I was a kid, and I saw an interview with him or something.
Well, listen, man, I am glad, James, that you had a chance to get into that book. Keep reading it. It's fascinating. If you guys get a chance, make sure you pick it up and check it out, either physically on Kindle or on Audible. It's really worth it. It's very, very informative. All right, what's next?
Kyle B, no Josh Brolin on A4 press tour. Attentional?
Probably means intentional.
Yeah, intentional.
If he's not, it's probably because he's busy. I mean, he's shooting a lot these days. So
he's doing Dune.
Oh, that's right. He's on set shooting Dune right now. Yeah. That's right. So he's not available to do the press tour at the moment. So no, not intentional. I think it's just his schedule doesn't allow it right now.
But his social media, he's sure been funny about it. He's been saying things that Thanos would say to the Avengers on Instagram.
All right. What's next?
Randy, hi there. I love your shows. The past 4 months, we've been hearing rumors about Black Knight. You think it just is an Easter egg or just not going to happen?
I honestly haven't heard much about Black Knight popping up. So I've certainly heard nothing credible about it, so I'm just guessing it's not going to happen. Have you, Rob?
Yeah, I think bringing Black Knight into Endgame at this point in time would be a little weird.
And
To be honest.
one of my fears, just stuffing too much, just trying to cram too much into it. I'm thinking that's not going to happen, Randy. All right, what's next?
Jeff Mullins, tip for avoiding spoilers. Turn on all alerts for people you trust. Put all social apps in one folder. Only look at their posts and then leave apps.
Yep, it's kind of the reality we're going to live in for the next 8 days until this movie opens, or 9 if you're not going to see it till Friday. But that's actually a really good suggestion, Jeff. Thanks for the tip, dude. All right, 2 more questions and then we'll wrap it up today.
Really Tired 64. I heard a rumor that Endgame may not be on Blu-ray at all and could be on Disney Plus exclusively to entice people to sign up. Could that be true?
Nope. You know why? Money. See, here's the thing. According to the agreement between studios and movie theaters, they're going to be, so we're April, May, June, July. They're eligible to put Avengers Endgame out in July, maybe early August, depending on what they want to do, but July. They're not launching Disney Plus until November. So you're in July, August, September, October, November. That's 4 months that they could be making hand over fist ass loads of money by selling this thing. So would it be a brilliant marketing move? Yeah, it actually really would. And you know what? If this was even like, if their release window ended, say, 1 month away from when Disney Plus was launching, I would give more credibility to that rumor. But it's just too big of a window of time. Disney has been one of the worst offenders of trying to rush their movies into home video availability. So I don't see them waiting that long. I don't see them waiting 7 months
By the
to put
way,
this thing out.
Yeah, I just pre-ordered the Game of Thrones complete series box set on 4K or Blu-ray, whatever the hell I ordered it on. And see, I don't even know. I just hit click. But I can bet you that for Christmas this year, for Christmas of 2019, we're going to get a big box set called the Infinity Saga. That's going to come with some swag and I don't know what else, but it's going to be a big box. It's probably going to cost like $400 and it'll be out. It will be out because remember, even though physical media is dropping by all this percentage points, it's still a $13-14 billion a year industry.
All right, what's next?
DC patients, hope you and Filthians use my endgame bladder strategy. Stagger potty breaks during first or second acts across multiple showings. Enjoy drinks without suffering.
Yeah, so DC had this idea. Her notion is this. Just break it up into 2 screenings. Go to one screening of Avengers Endgame and go to the bathroom during the beginning of the second act, and then go to a second screening of Endgame, watch those couple of minutes you missed, and then go to the bathroom near the beginning of the third act that you've already seen before, and there you go. I would love a tip, though, about how to get through it on one screening so I don't have to miss anything, but that's a really good idea. All right, final question of the day. Now, listen, guys, this is going to be the final question of the day from Abel, but then from Randy, James H., Doshi, all the way down, everybody else who has sent in a question, don't you worry. Your questions will get addressed today in a companion video later today. Your questions will be answered in a video. Just keep your eyes open. We're just running out of time for today because of all the main topics we had. So what is our final one today, Ashley?
Abel Contreras, over under 33%. George Lucas directs first last Star Wars movie.
One last Star Wars movie.
One last Star Wars movie.
Oh, 0. Well, I mean, never say 0, I guess, but I'll take way under 33. He's not going to direct another Star Wars movie. Rob?
I agree with you. I don't think he is. He's like, look, why would he want the aggravation?
Yeah. And by the way, when George Lucas, when he made Star Wars movies, he had to answer to no one.
Right.
Because he was paying for it. It was his. He had property. If he were to come in and direct another one, he wouldn't be in charge. And that's just not something he's used to. So I can't see that happening at all. And quite frankly, while I worship at the altar of George Lucas, as an overall filmmaker, I don't want the director of the prequels to direct another Star Wars movie. Maybe write a story outline that everybody follows. Because I say this, Rob, as much as I criticize the Star Wars prequels, if you sat down and look at a 5-page outline of the entire prequel trilogy, just the main story points, I would look at them and go, that could be pretty damn good. I think he's great at coming up with that stuff. I just don't want him directing.
You know what? With you, I have to say, I think the prequels are good Star Wars, but bad movies. If that makes any sense.
I think I know what you're saying.
Because I like what happens.
Yeah, the bullet points are great. It's just the execution that to me just didn't quite work out. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. We've run out of time. Once again, just reminding you guys, all the extra super chat questions that we didn't have time to get around to, they are getting addressed in a video a little bit later today. Keep your eyes open for the companion video a little bit later. I want to thank the people joining me here. First of all, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, where can people find you online?
John, you can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or on my own YouTube channel, The Burnettwork, and its companion website, theburnettwork.net.
And of course, Ashley Whalen. Ashley, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on my Twitter. It's AshAttack1, or my Instagram is my name, Ashley Whalen. There's 2 Y's in Ashley.
And of course, you guys can follow me on social media simply at John Campea. That will do it for us for today, guys. Thank you so much for being here and being film fans with us and giving us some people to talk to as we talk about our favorite things in the world. Don't forget, we'll be back again tomorrow. That'll do it for us for now, guys. My name's John Campea, and until our next video, bye-bye.